Hello and welcome back to another video. How are you guys doing today? I thought it'd be kind of chill to just kind of talk about music, specifically vinyls. As you can see back there, I have quite a number of them, and I just thought it would be pretty cool to just kind of go over some of my favorites as well as some hidden gems, and maybe you'll find something new to listen to. So let's get started. So first up, we have Glitter by Pasteboard. They are a Japanese shoegaze band that I believe started in the early 2000s, around 2007 or so. But this is the only albums that they came out with, and this is actually a 2024 release. So originally they didn't have any physical media, I think, besides an original CD back then. But there is this record label called Seventh Heaven, and they picked it up and they were able to do a limited release of this vinyl. I just so happened to find them randomly, I think on Spotify, when I was looking through a bunch of different shoegaze bands, and I stumbled upon them and I just kind of fell in love with them instantly. And to come to find out that they only released one album and then went on hiatus was very, very heartbreaking. But somehow I ended up on a Reddit forum, and that's kind of how I found out about Seventh Heaven. And I just kind of followed them to kind of see, and eventually they did release it. Funny enough, when they announced this drop, I was on a road trip from Utah back to California, and I literally stopped on the side of the road to be able to get this vinyl. It was such a short, limited run. They've made more copies since then, but honestly, like, it was so hectic and I was just so excited to be able to get it. I played it a couple times and it's just so magical, very majestic. It's just very raw and just, I don't know. Shoegaze has like a very special place in my heart. So being able to listen to this in physical form has been really, really nice. And yeah, as you can see on the little sticker, it says that it's a limited edition black vinyl and only 100 were made at the time. But obviously I'm sure there's been more, because there's such a high demand for it because of how limited it is, and obviously more and more people are rediscovering them. So yeah, it's just been nice to see them grow, and I think they did properly get permission to redistribute it. The record label was able to communicate with some of the original band members, so yeah, this is one of them. So recently there's been a resurgence of Call Me By Your Name, especially with the re-release of the movie in theaters in February. This is my Peach Edition vinyl. So they also did a limited run of these, and it was only available during the Peach season, which I believe is August timeframe or so. But it's supposed to be like a scratch and sniff, so when you scratch the logo, it still kind of smells like it. It's supposed to smell like the peaches, kind of resembling Elio's peach. The scent kind of smells similar to the Quaker Oats peach oatmeal, so if you wanted to get a descriptor of that. It is a gatefold, and as you can see, it's the scene where Elio and Oliver are in the living room and he's playing his rendition of Bach, and then just kind of going back and forth of bantering about Bach wouldn't written like this, blah, 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 blah. I am a Charli XCX stan. I am an angel. Yes, I have a Brat card, but I do also have this Record Store Day edition Vroom Vroom EP. I didn't get the original one when it first came out. That also was a very hard drop to get. But even this Record Store one was also impossible. I just remember having to get it through Banquet Records, which is like a UK-based vinyl store, I believe. And yeah, it was just really hard to get and just super hectic. But yes, I was able to get it. And this was one of the ones that I was missing at the time to kind of complete my collection of all my Charli vinyls. Besides Sucker, because there's a lot of hate over Sucker, and I just never got it. But as of recently, I believe earlier this year or sometime last year, Urban Outfitters released the whole entire discography again. So I did end up getting Sucker for the Urban Outfitters edition, but I do now have the whole entire Charlie collection, but this is one of the ones that I was very, very happy to get, especially because this EP was kind of the shift that kind of pushed Charlie into being able to be more comfortable with herself and just kind of finding the type of music that she wanted to produce, and just kind of created a bunch of different friendships that kind of have been very impactful for her, especially with Sophie and A.G. Cook and so forth. But it was also kind of my first true experience to like PC music, hyperpop, and just all of that, glittery textures. And, so going from like indie music to this was a very like huge 360, no pun intended, but it was a very welcoming experience. So this is Product by Sophie. This is another one of the ones that had a restock, I believe, last year as well. But honestly, listening to electronic music on vinyl, it is such an experience because you're able to get such clarity with everything. But yeah, so I had to pick this up when it dropped, and it is another one of my precious collections. And now I have the Product and Brat card, so it's very nice to kind of see that universe come together. So this one here is Windswept Adon, I believe is how you say it, by Ichiko Aoba. This was part of her first US tour back in 2021 or 2022, I believe, or 2023, sometime around that point. But it was her first US tour, and she performed at the Masonic Lounge at the Hollywood Forever Cemetery. And yeah, so this is a very peaceful album. She's made her rounds through TikTok. A lot of her music has been used in, very calming edits, but it was such a very nurturing experience to kind of see her in person, especially in such a intimate venue. And during that time, like, no one was recording, everyone was just kind of taking in her music. And it was actually really nice to meet her afterwards. She did like a little meet and greet with people, and I was able to kind of meet her and just interact with her for a bit. But yeah, this is one of the albums that I treasure very, very much. Her music is very special to me. It kind of found me in a place in my life where I kind of needed some sort of safety blanket, and it was just really nice to kind of experience that with her. I try to go to all of her concerts that she has when she's out here, and so far have not failed. I went to the one that she had last year, and I'm also going to the one that she has this year at the Walt Disney Concert Hall. And it's just so nice to see how she is growing exponentially, starting from such a small venue to now, selling out the Disney Concert Hall. And it's just, so nice to see such a small artist, to you become something so big and so popular. And it's also very, sad because you don't get that same experience that you get, but I'm so very grateful for it. Ichiko Aoba is a very sweet and, a sweet artist, and I just wish her the best as she continues on this journey. This is another one that I was very, very excited when I found out that they were having an official release. So this is actually the movie soundtrack, or the original score from the movie Her with Joaquin Phoenix and Scarlett Johansson. And this was made by Arcade Fire with Owen Pallett. And this was one of those that when the movie first dropped, I just instantly fell in love with it. But the issue was that they never officially released any soundtrack for it on any streaming platform or anywhere. And it wasn't until, I don't know, I want to say like 2-3 years ago, maybe more, that they just randomly posted this picture. They were finally officially releasing copies of this album, and they also finally put it on streaming. But I was just so excited to finally get this. It's one of those movies that kind of stays with you. The connection that this has to Lost in Translation, and just the relationship between Sofia Coppola and her now ex-husband, and just kind of how, they both use Scarlett Johansson. It's just, it's a very like unifying experience, and it's just very interesting to see that tie-in and how everything comes full circle in a moment. This one's another interesting one. This is On the Six by JLo. JLo is a very sensitive topic with people. Been she's been in the game for a long time, and she's obviously has a lot of interesting things going on about her. But honestly, this is her best album in my opinion. This album followed me through childhood. I remember living in LA the ripe age of 3 or 4, and my mom would just always be playing this album. So that's why it has such a special place in my heart. And honestly, if JLo has no fans, that means I'm dead, because despite everything, she got a fan of me, she is my Latin queen. And not a lot of people kind of appreciate this album. I know that there's all these rumors, or not even rumors, it just confirmed that, Ashanti vocals and everything. But at the end of the day, JLo is a performer, and she gave such a performance on this album. Even in the music videos, I have a CD, or I have a DVD with all her music videos from this era. And honestly, like, it's such a universal experience and such a bop. Like, come on, If You Had My Love, everyone knows that one. Waiting for Tonight, that is, the pinnacle Y2K experience, right? Everyone wanted to grow up and kind of had that party atmosphere of New Year's Eve. I remember watching that music video and thinking, this is how my New Year's Eves are going to be when I'm older. They're not entirely like that, but again, this is just such a fun album. And I don't know. Yeah, she gets hate, but I'm gonna stand by her when it comes to this. This was also a birthday present from my best friend Slater. She is also a JLo stan, or a JLo fan. So if she has no fans, we're both gone pretty much. But yeah, I just wanted to throw this little wild card in there. Hopefully I don't get hate for it. Hopefully I don't get canceled. And here's another one that was also reissued last year. This is Nighttime, My Time by Sky Ferreira. She is also a very sensitive topic. As we know, she has been trying to release her second album for years. I'm pretty sure a decade at this point. And this was like her first actual release. And at the time, it was deemed a failure by Capitol Records, right? Is it Capitol? Yeah, deemed a failure by Capitol Records. Streaming has changed that. Back then, streaming was slowly becoming a thing. But now she has gotten such a popularity. She is one of those OG pop girls that everyone had such a vision for. But yeah, I was very excited to get this reissue. I believe there's a little bit of drama behind this reissuing. I believe that she wasn't informed of it or something like that. And unfortunately, I did not know that at the time when I pre-ordered this. So I'm sorry. But yeah, this was one of those vinyls that I was, dying to get when it first got released, and then, finally got into her music more intensely. And they're pretty penny. They're pretty expensive to be able to get like an original one, especially a picture disc. So just the fact that I'm able to be holding this is very fun and exciting. And I'm very hopeful to see Sky finally release her second album, and things are hopefully looking up for her. I know she's been releasing singles here and there. I think the best one to finish all this out is the Richard D. James album by Aphex Twin. Yes, Aphex Twin is a very interesting artist, and just the way that he goes about making music has always been very interesting to me. And just, the whole culture behind it, and just understanding IDM music and just ambient music in itself, and just kind of experiencing it for what it is. But this is one of my favorite albums by him. It's not for everyone. A lot of his music is not for everyone. I wouldn't say that it's very digestible, but if you are open to listening to very experimental music, I would give this a listen. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I can talk about Aphex Twin a lot and just kind of, what he means to me, but let's just keep it short and sweet, as Miss Sabrina Carpenter would say. But yeah, just I think the history behind Aphex Twin and just kind of him being a pioneer for electronic music and so forth, and just kind of how he has inspired a lot of new artists in this time period and so forth, and just kind of how they take inspiration from him is just very insane, especially, artists like AG Cook, just kind of seeing their inspiration from him take place. I don't know if that made sense, but hopefully it made sense. There's one song specifically, I think it's hashtag 19. It was released. Hold up. Let me verify. Okay. So it's not hashtag 19. My bad. Number 19. So this was released in 2024, but this song has been around. This song has been around for such a long time, but it never got an official release. And there's actually this one YouTube video that's from like 10 years ago, I believe, and it's this song, but I think it's looped, or it's the 10-minute version, but it's the picture of a monkey, a baboon, and it's just the song playing. And that's the type of song that finds you at a special place in your life. And just reading the comments, you can see that it's become such a gem to me. It's, some of the comments are saying that, they were listening to the song as they were falling in love, or, they were going through something traumatic and this song found them. And it's just so interesting to see how instrumental music and just, ambient music in itself can invoke so many different feelings for people, and just kind of, create such a community. It's one of my all-time favorite Aphex Twin songs, and every time it comes on, it just, kind of reminds me of such a nostalgic experience of my highs and lows, and just, again, finding that song randomly, and just the idea behind it. Well, that's all I have for you today. The sun is going down. I've been sitting here just kind of rambling about music, but hopefully, this was an interesting watch, and hopefully, we can do a part 2. I still have a lot more vinyls to go through, especially this Blonde by Frank Ocean. But yeah, thank you for sitting down and chit-chatting with me, and, just kind of learning a little bit of history about music and just kind of the things I can remember. But, thank you. Hopefully I'll see you next time.